Greater Good Radio. Connect, learn, heal, and grow.
My luck was entering the Brown Bags to Stardom Talent Contest, winning that, recording a song that I didn't want to record. I actually sang Nothing's Going to Change My Life for You at the talent contest because I was a huge fan of George Benson. Loved his work, loved his playing of the guitar and his singing. And I really liked one of his writers, one of the writers that would write for him, Michael Masser, had written a lot of hits for a lot of people, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston. And so I would listen to George Benson's records, sang the song, but after singing the song and winning the statewide championship here, I was asked to do a recording as part of the prize. And I said, oh, let's find a song that I could sing. And it was lucky because the program director at I-94 at the time, his name was Jay Stone, and he had a really good ear for music. And he said, Glenn, I think you should re-record That's Going to Change My Love for You. And I said, oh, no, that's George's song. I'm not doing that. He said, no. And he had a reason for it. He said that Whitney Houston, a few years earlier, had re-recorded Greatest Love of All, which was written by Michael Masser and recorded by George Benson. But Whitney ended up moving it to a larger audience. He felt I could do the same thing. And I said, no, my singing is nowhere close to Whitney, or I don't have that kind of backing that Whitney had. I was assigned to any major recording label like she was with Arista Records and Clive Davis. But he said, no, I think you should sing this song. So I reluctantly did. So that was the first piece of luck because I've sung it in about 30 countries. There's something special about that song, whether it's the hook, the rhythm, the lyric, the combination thereof. The music was written by Michael Masser, and the lyrics was written by Jerry Goffin. Now, Jerry Goffin is probably one of the most successful lyricists of all time. He's written a ton of hits. He was married to Carole King. They wrote a lot of the lyrics to her hits and wrote a lot of hits for everyone. So this Jay Stone really knew what he was doing. He knew it. He'd been in radio. He listens to songs all the time. So anyway, the first piece of luck was choosing that song, recording it. The second piece of luck was that Jay Stone had a friend in Arizona. He gave the song to us and said, hey, can you try and just play on the radio, see what happens? And it goes to number one on request. And at the same time that the song is being played in Arizona, a person named Lenny Silver, owner of an independent record label, is vacationing there. Hears the song, and he had a small record label, but he was a very successful distributor of records throughout the East Coast. He heard it and said, I never heard this song before. He called the radio station and he said, what's going on with this? Is he on a record label? They said no. And like a week later, he flew me to San Francisco and I signed a contract with him to be on his independent record label. So him being there on vacation in his vacation home at the same time as it was played. So there's another stroke of luck right there. And then he was very well connected. So another thing that happened. So Nothing's Going to Change My Life for You was released in Arizona. And then under the independent record label, he tried to release it throughout the United States, but didn't have the power of a major recording label. And so it was difficult for us to get it played on the radio stations, even though when it did get played, it got positive reaction. So it just so happens that one of Lenny's artists on Amherst Records was Doc Severinsen. And he got together with Doc Severinsen and said, hey, can you get Glenn on the Tonight Show? And he said, oh, yeah. I think it would be great if he sings and we play the music and we do it live. At the time in the 80s, a lot of the performances were pretty much lip-synced. It's not because anybody was trying to cheat or anything. It's just that to get a good sound system on television and make it sound good, it's not easy. And a lot of TV stations don't want to deal with that. They just want to shoot it visually. So anyway, went ahead and said yes. And when I performed on The Tonight Show, I thought that I would just sing and leave and that's it. But when I did go and perform, I think because everyone saw this 16-year-old kid is singing a song, you got a standing ovation. And so we were shocked. And then we were told that he's not going to call me up to the chair. He only does that if he really likes the performance or likes something. Next thing you know, he calls me up and then he starts talking with me a little bit and saying how the Koa Bowl that we got for him that was created in part through help of the mayor at the time of Kauai and all the gifts that he just wanted to say thank you for all of that. And he thought it was funny that my manager was from Buffalo, New York, and I lived in Hawaii, and he was Jewish and I'm Catholic. And he didn't share everything on stage, of course, but in my conversations with him backstage, he shared that he thought it was funny that You had these differences between my manager and I. So that ended up making the song explode. So once I sang the song in front of millions of people, then the song started to explode and it reached number 12 on the chart. It didn't go to number one. And Lenny, who was not only the owner of the record label I was under, but also my manager, he had said that if it had been released on a major recording label, he has no doubt that it would go to at least top 5, but we didn't know. So right after that, we signed to Polygram Records in Canada, and it went right to number 1 under a major recording label. And then it was released in different countries in Scandinavia. The first one was Norway, went to number 1, then Sweden number 1, Denmark number 1, Finland number 1, and it's just going number 1 everywhere else under the push of the major recording label. So he was right that we needed to do that, and that's why I have these different gold records from different places, because it did sell well in most of the countries that it went to. In the United States, it peaked at number 12, but if it had been released on a major recording label in all of the markets at the same time, it probably would have been a top 3 or so song.
If you resonate with Greater Good Radio, please join our community at www.greatergoodradio.com, where you can get access to exclusive content and offerings. Hope to see you soon.